this, Kyle. This is
It's
finally
amazing.
been wanting for how many weeks?
Oh,
And yeah, I've got people at the lake working remote, and it's a lot of snow. They said it's melting, but it's just a big slush pot right now. So there's whether I want to sit in my backyard for the fire pit or I want to go to the lake. So I'm on the fence right now.
Well, we got the beautiful fresh air. We've got sun is shining today. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yep.
If you can get outside, get some exercise, get some fresh air, that's perfect.
And no socks. Debbie says it's officially spring. No socks. So, and that, hey, look, see, I got pants on. We were having this conversation yesterday about what people are wearing in an interview. So,
yeah, I'm going to have to switch over to my work sandals pretty soon here.
I know. So I heard the government was rolling out some conversation right now. I heard yesterday's, the good news is that there is some progression, but it's going to be hitting in 5 phases. So probably to the audience, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap that up in some kind of communication. Everybody, I'm sure, has got their eyes glued to the TV right now because it's impacting every level of business in terms of, how quickly we can get back into the new normal.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. I think that's basically kind of going on right now. So I'm sure by the time we finish up this call here, there's going to be some new updates and kind of a plan of how we're going to start opening things up again. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's just kind of an ongoing process, right? And day by day, we're kind of taking it. And yeah, you're right. Eventually, we'll get back to the previous normal, I guess. We're working on the new normal right now.
I think it's going to still be a new normal. I think that's what I'm calling it. So, but 2 quick updates, and then I think, Matt, we should be able to start rolling into our official start. So I just thought I have to tell a story about the 2 cats and the 2 cats. Because everybody probably has read about the 2 cats that have been tested for COVID. One came from someone who was asymptomatic, and then the other one came from someone who actually had COVID. The good news is, everybody, that at this point, they're saying, obviously, the cats can't pass it on. So I was quite surprised by that news because we were all having this conversation when we're all cuddling our animals. Can animals do this?
Well, so, apparently, there you go. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I was a little bit shocked, but not surprised all at the same time. But the other side of the 2 cats is I'm actually officially a foster mom.
Oh, and congratulations.
My 2 foster cats kitties are doing really well. They're about almost 2 weeks old. Their eyes are open, and oh my man, they're so cute. They're so cute. They just like sit right on the palm of your hands. And then they get to know that someone else is in the room because they can see you. Yeah. And now they're starting to get a little bit braver and they're kind of moving past mama. So it was my daughter's project. It was the best therapy ever through these COVID times. And what she did is she brought this this cat in. It was a farm cat that was pregnant, and they wanted to make sure that it had a good environment to have her babies. And so we adopted this cat and put it in a room because we've got 2 other cats, so we can't connect them for reasons and all that stuff. And it's amazing how she's warmed up to us as a farm cat. So I'm going to have a hard time giving it back. Anybody else who needs an animal to help, I got 2 kittens that would love to have a nice, warm, loving home. So
I might be talking after this, Deb.
There we go. And they are. Anyway. All right. Can we roll? All right, everybody who's, I think, dialed in, here we go again. This is our number 4 show for Thursday Live, and thank you for taking the time to tune in. I've got Matt over here. If Matt wants to wave his hand, he's kind of like the new Colton. Matt Hill is one of the consultants that works with us, but he's keener on the technology. So Debbie just comes, sits, and then that's really all I do. So, and then we'll have some questions. If I'm not seeing them, he's going to read them back to us as well. So Deb Wiegers Financial and Benefits. We have Kyle. We'll informally introduce Kyle Anderson from Bridges Health. We've got a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll formally go forward with the show with our guest speaker as well. So I think a couple of things. I'm not going to, and I just want to make sure, Matt, that you're watching. I want to be less than 10 minutes. A couple updates. We've done the newsletter a few times over. So the one that went out last week, for those who received the newsletter, if there's any questions, let us know. For those who are curious, let us know, because we try to keep updates on that side of things as well. So the big news, the very happy news, is the insurance companies have come in with premium relief. And they are now starting to look at numbers, and they're obviously looking at, the March, April numbers with respect to claiming patterns. So focusing more on dental and a little bit to the health side, the paramedicals that we know have moved to virtual care. So your chiropractor, a little bit, that's emergency only on very few chiropractors I'm hearing, but physiotherapy, speech therapy, and those types of services, and psychology, of course. So the good news is that there'll be premium relief, that most of them are picking up the credit that will come to you in May, and then some are moving into June billing. So again, all the carriers that we work with, which are about 15 plus, they're all in that same range of what that credit's going to look like. So our clients are really happy to have that news. So I'm glad to be able to pass that on. Another one, and I'm not going to delve into it because it was detailed a little bit more in our newsletter, is through these waves that we've been seeing in the insurance adjustment of benefits to COVID, we're seeing that people have, the official was, we were doing layoffs. Now we've moved into reduced hours. They're obviously hoping, depending on what's going to happen with the news today, is now we can bring some people back into the workplace and work with subsidies and such, so that we can start moving our economy forward. So if there is reduced hours that you are doing, it's really, really important to be thinking about how that correlates on the benefit side of things. The communication has to be there with the supplier. We've been guiding a lot of our clients through that, because there's a big question of, for example, taking someone's salary from $4,000 to $2,000. What does that mean on a billing statement? What does that mean as it relates to the benefit if someone should get disabled or die? So it's really important that you understand that the two work together, and there might be some reasons why you might do one or the other. Most of our carriers are allowing an option of having both within your own workplace. For example, some might choose to pay the additional premium to keep their benefit at a high level. Some might not be able to. They might need to drop it down just because of affordability. But they need to understand what will result if they bring their salary down, in turn bring the benefits down. That is really, really important. You communicate that to your employees. And again, we can help guide you through that. We've got some communications that we work with as well. And on the layoff kit, we got some amendments, some adds, not amendments. We're going to add a few extra things into this toolkit. Probably later into next week, we'll start to communicate that back out to our audience. It's kind of like putting the ending to a story. So for those who are interested, certainly give us a call. Great links. We put them in our newsletter, but they're really good links that I think that kind of tell the big story. CBC is a really, really good link. They're really talking about benefits from the federal, from the provincial, and from the territory side to those who are obviously financially strapped and impacted by the COVID. So our newsletter's got a link. You could just Google CBC, and it was just one that came out, I think, a few days ago, Matt. I think we posted it on our private chat as well. For those who have EAP programs, and then Bridges, I'm sure you've got something as well on a communication level, there is a lot being put together on, and they address it as a toolkit as well, is just those things that you want to be mindful of as it relates to, your anxiety and stress levels, tools, links, resources, places that you can go, things to be thinking about, how to adjust from working from home, all those things. So our provider on an EAP level is LifeWorks, and I know they've got a really, really good toolkit that's out there. And then the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, we've mentioned that one because it's a really good business to government document that really, coming from the mindset of a business owner, what are the things that we need to be thinking about as it relates to us as a business, as it relates to us and our employees. So again, great links.
And both of those links are posted in our private Facebook group.
Yes, and on that private Facebook chat, I know that Kyle and Leon have joined in on that, and we've got a really good uptake on the people that have joined in. It's for anybody that's a business owner, HR, in the professional world, legal, accounting, wellness. We really want to gather a lot of great minds together to share in some conversation. It's like a peer group. And we found that it's been really interactive, and we always appreciate when we get outside information coming in. Did you know, and so we really would love to have more on board. I think this is going to be a useful tool that we have to bring about as a result of COVID, of course. But having said that, we just fast tracked it, and it is going to be a go forward tool for us and our clients as well. So So interesting survey, and then we're going to move on to a couple things. I just want you to know that I think it's real, maybe a little bit disappointing, yet I see some optimism in it. The stats up there from a report by Aon said 2 in 5 businesses have laid off workers temporarily. So that's, I think, a pretty good number. 30% are still paying their workers who can't come to the workplace or working remote. So there's a really big push and effort from employers to really try and keep that engagement in the economy. And I'm really happy when I hear that half of those are still working to retain benefits for their employees. I think that has become evident. We had a couple situations that had those benefits not been in place for an employee that in this situation had been laid off, it would have been very catastrophic to this employee. So we are always there to endorse the fact that I know it's very difficult times, but if we can extend those benefits, that would be something we'd like to keep in mind. And we're going to talk about our community partnership. Maybe I'm hoping we have a couple minutes at the end. I want to do a shout out and what we're doing at Wiegers Financial on a community level, that I want to throw this out as I don't want to call it a challenge. I think I would want it to engage our community. I know there's been some awesome things that have been happening out in the community, and to everyone that's doing their little part, thank you. To the healthcare workers, always the hugest of thanks. They're putting their lives and their families at risk for the care of us. So with that, I want to move forward and introduce our guest speaker today, our company, Bridges Health. We actually had 2, but unfortunately, Leon Ferguson, and with us going to be Kyle Anderson. Leon couldn't make it today because I'm so glad to say this, because it wasn't me that was having the technology glitches. He just couldn't get things working at his end. So we let him off the hook, and we said, all right, we're going to give the crown over to Kyle. And Kyle gets to be the king for the day.
Well, thanks so much for having us, Deb. And yeah, we're really happy to be here. I know Leon was sure excited to join, but yeah, like you mentioned, we're all kind of just figuring this out as we go, and yeah, tech issues arise, and yeah, hopefully next time Leon can be here too.
Absolutely. You know, and I was going to introduce you, but you know what? I mean, I had the one line I did want to make sure that was said. I love this line. I mean, Bridges Health, you're the finest multidisciplinary workplace resource. I love holistic health. You're really all-encompassing with health and wellness strategies. I love this line. They are your health and wellness quarterback, assisting with the logistics of enhancing organizational culture and overall wellness. I think that says it all, doesn't it, Kyle?
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, we're working in a ton of different areas, both the physical wellness side of things, the injury prevention, return to work planning, keep people physically healthy, but then also on the mental health side of things as well. And right now, kind of more than ever, we are seeing this push and this emphasis on mental wellness. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, and hopefully assist both individuals and their organizations, communities as a whole, in just staying as healthy as possible.
Absolutely. And just a quick update on who Kyle is. When I actually said I'm handing the king's crown over, you can actually say I'm officially that guy, because he's got a master's degree in mental health counseling and a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. So pretty impressive, Kyle. And
Well, thank you very much.
I know that you've been a really big part of Bridges and on the business development level, and moving into these spaces that we probably a few months back said, although very important, much more important in today's world. So I think the timing was fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Organization.
Yep,
So,
definitely. And yeah, we're thrilled to be here.
We have a statement from Michael from Blue Cross. Thanks for weighing in, Michael. Dental optometrists and most health practitioners, but not massage, seem to be reopening May 4th. So that must have come from this morning. They haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Thanks, Mike. You know, and I was thinking when they said phases, I said I'm expecting that nothing over April yet, but May. So that's perfect. So we're excited for that. And hopefully soon will be the massage world as well. So our session today is going to focus on mental well-being. Of course, it's an emphasis on COVID. Some of the stressors that we're seeing in the marketplace have heightened to a whole new level that we probably never had expected. And so the topic that we kind of nailed down was taking care of yourself in the face of adversity. Because I kind of think that's where we're at right now for many of us. And in maybe March, I know myself personally, everything was very still surreal. We're kind of moving into this like playbook, but it's now starting to settle. And I think there's just this awareness going, wow, like where are we at? What are we doing? Where are we going? An interesting stat from the Canadian HR Reporter newsletter that I read on a regular basis on the mental forefront. And Kyle, you've probably seen these numbers as well. More than 8 in 10 or 85% said they're concerned about COVID. And that was in March. Half or 52% say they're very concerned. They're very concerned. So, sorry, that was the April stat. In March, it was much lower. So when I talked about that being surreal, I think a lot of people wasn't really sinking in. In March, it was 62% versus 85% feeling concerned. The other stat would be a quarter of us versus a half of us today are really concerned. So, I mean, the timing is perfect to really move forward in this conversation and this space of mental well-being. I know we know there's stress, Kyle, and there's two types of stress, and we all need stress. I think stress is healthy as long as it's in moderation, but there's unhealthy stress. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. And right now, I think we are kind of starting to see a lot of those levels of unhealthy stress. We're seeing people experiencing high levels of anxiety and stress and grief and sadness, all of these really strong emotions, sometimes for the first time in their lives. Or even if they had experienced these before, now we're kind of on another level, because it's hard enough some days just when life is going well. You know, we're going to be experiencing some of these things, but now suddenly throw in this fear of our health and health of our loved ones. And now getting into adjusting to working from home. Maybe parents now having to also be a full-time parent, a full-time teacher, and working a full-time job. Extra financial stressors, and can't engage in the typical coping skills. So the list goes on, and no wonder we're feeling this way. And, you know, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and when somebody asks you how you're doing, what's the typical response? Say, good, yourself? Oh, not bad, you, right? But so I'd asked him how he was doing. He said, good, you. And I just said, no, you know what? No one's doing good right now. How are you actually doing? Let's have a real conversation. I knew he was, you know, kind of isolated, would have probably been having a tough time. And maybe that's kind of a blunt way of going about it. But him and I had that relationship. It was okay. So I could kind of engage in the conversation that way and really check in on how he was doing. Because on one level, the nice thing is everyone's going through this together. We are going to be all kind of experiencing some common stressors, some common issues, so we can really relate to one another and support each other in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. My new tag phrase is I'm a nutbag today. I'm just a nutbag right now. So just bear with me. I'm being a nutbag. So and it's real. And there's nothing more we can do. Is just to be real right now. I think that's why I always say COVID. It's a little bit survival of the fittest, and I think more importantly, I think although the tough way, I think it's bringing human back. So I think it's a big today. Some of my staff would do that. Exactly over here.
Deb, like you touched on there too, that positive versus negative stress, right? And I think stress is one of those things, sometimes we think we need to avoid this at all costs. But in reality, stress is a good thing. It helps us. There's this inverted U stress curve in terms of stress and performance. So when we don't have any stress in our lives, we are not getting anything done. I call those the Netflix days, right? Where you're sitting in front of the TV, you have clicked, yes, I'm still here, about 3 or 4 times, gotten through 8 episodes, and nothing gets done. Sorry, maybe that's just me.
I do it. I do it. Yeah.
But then, of course, we're on the other end of the spectrum too. If we're under so much stress and so much overload, we're not going to get much done either, because we're just going to be fully burnt out. So we just need to navigate it and find a good balance and ways to manage that stress accordingly.
Yeah. And I actually think that a lot of people are doing that. They don't even realize it. I know for me, I've got a heightened awareness of my stress that makes me keenly on top of my things before I go on a holiday.
Yeah.
So then I'm sitting down and I'm going like, I have got to bang, bang. And there's clarity because I got like a time frame and I feel good because I can just put this project aside and then I'm going to relax. So there's stress in that. There's stress in that, but I use it as a good stress to me, if that makes any sense.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, they talk about the fight or flight. I think there's a little bit of this starting to happen right now, where it's been a thing that's been there, but there's more of us going through this flight or fight or flight, and I know through some of the learnings and talking to you folks, I know they say that we all can just manage so much, right? I mean, we all know that, but if we were to break it down and we were only to manage so much, we say, what are those things that are challenges that you have? And I know in a couple past sessions I've mentioned it, but I mean they're obvious ones, and through a lot of mental well-being and counseling that come to the forefront. So it would be maybe in no particular order, but money, career, relationships, self-acceptance, and health. So let's add COVID into this.
Oh yeah.
See how this now adds to that 5 challenges that we have, and our mental capacity can only manage a percentage of that. So many of them. We can't take on all of these things and then think we're going to be able to function on a normal level.
Yeah.
So you probably are seeing that.
Absolutely.
Got a question?
Yeah. And we have Leon in the chat as well. So thank you for watching us. The tech issues prevented you from being with us here, but he mentions being vulnerable is so powerful in a trusting conversation. It really streamlines excellent communication.
Thanks. And very, very important. Thank you, Leon.
Absolutely. And I think we'll probably kind of circle back to that in a little bit here when we're speaking about, the stressors that leaders are going to be facing, because they're kind of facing a whole other set of challenges, both on an individual level, but trying to support their teams as well. But like you touched on there, Deb, COVID, it's going to be impacting all 5 of those areas, isn't it? It's not just falling into health. We're seeing it impact us financially, our careers, relationships is a huge one. Like if we're, living with a partner or our families and everyone is, on top of each other 24/7, unable to kind of separate, then also on the flip side too, we're not able to connect with people in person now as well. So ton of relationship stressors that we're going to be experiencing. So yeah, all of those categories that you mentioned are going to be impacted right now.
Well, and I think we'll get into some like kind of the tours or things to be thinking about, because we don't have to go through we don't have the time to go through deep therapy at this moment. Everybody needs like, what do I need to do today to be able to get through tomorrow? And so I mean, many of those things that we can be doing, and sometimes we may not think that they're important, but in a very small way, they make a very huge difference. And I know for myself, when I'm busy at work and I'm doing all sorts of stuff, when I get home, and I know Cliff's probably in the audience, but when I need to go for like a 1 or 2 hour walk by myself.
Yeah.
I listen to really loud music, and that's what I do. And it's just what takes me down, so that when I come home and now I can actually go to bed and have a good night's sleep and get up in the morning. So whatever that thing is for you, I think the key is to be aware of the fact that you are going in these places and to be taking action, right?
Exactly. And, Deb, I think that kind of leads into this idea of warning signs.
Yeah.
I know for myself, particularly over the last couple of weeks, I thought I'd been doing okay with all of this. It was certainly stressful, but I thought I'd been handling it fairly well. But it's really important that right now, even if we do think we're doing okay, kind of take a step back, reflect, and just check out if there are any signs or symptoms that things could be going in the wrong direction. And then hopefully, like you mentioned, we'll go right into the self-care tips and stuff like that right after this. But hopefully then we can engage in some of those things before the problems worsen. And when we're talking about warning signs, a couple of different signs and symptoms that we should be aware of, both in ourselves and then maybe also in others too. Like we may be able to notice them in family members or friends before they notice them in themselves. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you had shared some of those. So I mean, and I know everybody will go, oh, I would see that, I would notice that, but share them.
Well, they can be really small. for myself, the first things I notice are my sleep goes and my nutrition starts to go. Typically, I'm a pretty good sleeper, sleeping through the night. But, if I'm maybe having trouble falling asleep or waking up a few times, waking up earlier, or just I wake up on time but feel exhausted throughout the day. So that's kind of one of the first signs that I start to see. Changes in eating habits. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, and normally I'm able to kind of use some willpower and fight that off. But when I'm maybe starting to struggle a little bit more mentally, that's when I'm starting to engage in a little bit more unhealthy eating. Maybe feeling confused, inability to concentrate, just feeling foggy, kind of going in a daze, and you're talking to someone, and right after you finish, you're like, wait, what was actually just said here? Like, was I even fully there? Some extreme mood changes. That's kind of one that's maybe easier to recognize in others, particularly when their typical behavior, their typical baseline, right, and how they would normally respond to certain situations. And if you're seeing more irritability than normal, maybe extreme reactions to less extreme situations, so getting really upset over spilt milk, really simple example, but one of those things that typically, okay, not the end of the world, but at this time, we may respond to that a little bit differently. Increased substance use, if we're engaging in substances more than usual as a coping mechanism. Engaging in having ruminating thoughts, intrusive negative thoughts, maybe physical signs like a rapid heart rate, sweating, feeling dizzy, extra headaches. All of those things are good to be aware of, both in ourselves and others. And if we are seeing those things, then maybe it is time to, maybe take a step back. What can I be doing to take care of myself right now?
Yeah. And and those are good points, because I know, again, you guys are the experts. I'm just learning as I go, and I do some of the research and reading more for myself personally, because that's part of how I get some healing through all this. But one of the things that I really kind of have to, my new mantra is that I call it the AAA, three AAA. I said, what, it's to be aware.
Yeah.
That something's going on. No one can be aware other than you.
Exactly.
You gotta be aware something's going on. Something doesn't feel right today. Everything I did today is very different than how I took this world in yesterday.
Yep.
And so to be aware is number one, key important. Number two is to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
To say, I am having problems. I am not myself anymore. And, don't turn the finger and say, you just think I'm that person. I have to be accountable to my own behavior. And sometimes that's a tough thing to do. It's kind of like saying sorry. It's a tough thing for people to do, but to be accountable to it. But I think the part that we tend to struggle with is the take action. How much I to let myself from here to health. Right? Because that's what we're all striving for, is healthier right now. And so, that said, we try to keep this, especially now, we try to keep this, pretty simplistic, but yet so incredibly important and effective. Some things shared with us.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on a couple of really great points there. And that first A, that awareness piece, I think is kind of the roadblock for a lot of people. And once you get that, then you can go through the next two easier. But it really starts with that awareness piece. So being able to check in with yourself, if people are saying things to you, really kind of acknowledge that and take it in, say, okay, you know what? Probably do need to make some changes here. And then, that accountability and action, engaging in a number of different self-care techniques would be wonderful right now. And if people have some ideas of what's working for them, please feel free to include them in the chat so that we can just get some other ideas. But yeah.
A plug for Kyle, or for Leon, puzzles.
Hey, documentaries.
Puzzles.
Yeah.
And he's loving it. Not my stress release, just telling you.
Well, and Deb, right there, that's such a great point. It's being aware of what works for us, right? What works for Leon with the puzzles and the documentaries, that's fantastic. For you, that's putting on the loud music and going for that walk by yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever you find, whatever works for you. A couple ideas are just doing the same things that we would normally do, but just finding creative ways to do them. So, of course, physical activity is still so important. We can't be going to the gym, but if we're able to get outside for a walk, a run, bike ride, while still maintaining that distancing, so fantastic.
Yeah.
Healthy eating. We sure want to be engaging in that right now. Trying to keep our sleep hygiene on track. If we can, keep to a schedule and routine as much as possible. So important as well, especially for individuals that are working from home. It can be really tough. You get to sleep in a little later. Maybe you just roll out of bed and you're working in your pajamas. You don't need to shower or get dressed or things like that. But if we can try and keep that routine going as much as possible, would really, really help. And then, like you mentioned, just kind of finding some things that work for you. I think the really important piece to identify there is two things. One, these coping skills can be developed. So it's not something that we just are intrinsically born with, that some people cope better than others. It's a skill, and we need to make sure we're prioritizing that right now. And then two, based on our personality, it's going to look a lot different for different people. I know, just kind of speaking with you, Deb, you're more extroverted, right?
No.
So, yeah.
I ask that question to myself, like, I mean, how do we, whether it's introvert or extrovert, whether it's guy to girl,
yeah,
like, do we see the world differently, and do we manage things differently?
I'd say so. Absolutely. For you right now, I'm sure the lack of social connection piece is a huge stressor. And if you can still engage in that connection through different creative means, whether that's video chat and FaceTime, Skype, phone calls, texts, social media, things like that, so important. I'm probably naturally a little bit more introverted. So I'm kind of like, okay, you know what? Plans are getting canceled. This isn't the end of the world. This is okay. So for myself, I'm handling it a little bit better, but still making sure to prioritize those self-care things, whether that's the physical activity, the healthy eating, still having that release, I think is really, really important as well. And that can come in different forms, because a lot of the time right now, we're seeing people are going to be experiencing this stress, this anxiety, but not really going anywhere with it. So if you can just release that, it really, really helps. And that could be talking to someone, could just be talking to yourself, could be journaling, some sort of outlet to get that out.
Could be drawing.
Exactly. Drawing.
Playing the piano. I mean, it's a lot of people are going back probably to hobbies that they used to have.
Yeah.
That they never made the time for because they were too busy.
Yeah.
And now they're going, man, that felt good to get on the piano and strum a few tunes. Maybe I'm a little rusty, but it was a stress.
Real good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are able to have that time now to engage in some of those different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at it, and I don't mean to oversimplify it. And I mean, I want to be clear. Like, I mean, obviously, we've talked, and I've talked to Leon about, I've come to know at the 5 levels of stress. The one that stress is good level, and then now we're into, like, I mean, mental well-being is being impacted, right? And this is in between, and like number 3, I know I've referenced it before, and they call it situational. Right or wrong, this is a situation, and I think this is where we're trying to focus today's talk and in this middle lane of those things. So one of the things maybe we throw out a challenge at like we always strive as leaders to say like, I mean, part of growing individually is growing personally and professionally. And one of the things that we need to do, I think part of personal development, which allows growth in the professional development, would be having these coping skills and learning what it is. What does it mean? I always ask, are you born? Do you learn? I think we can learn them. I really think that
Definitely.
Just aware of where you are, and then to figure out what is it, how do we get forward? How do we move forward to get action? And I think about, if we can do that the next few months as a community to say, yep, I'm falling apart today. So what are the coping skills that I need for me to make it through the next few weeks and months? And knowing not every day is going to be perfect. In fact, there's going to be this. I think we think that somehow this is a linear thing, and
Oh yeah.
we're fooling ourselves if we think any day in our worlds is supposed to be linear. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. We're going to have some really strong ups and downs right now. And yes, while things are definitely looking positive, and we are going to be hopefully getting some good news here, there's definitely still going to be ups and downs. And as you were talking there, Deb, I kind of came back to this idea of controllables. There are so many things that are going on right now that we don't have control over, and that are going to be having a strong impact on us. But if we are trying to focus our time and energy on those things that we don't have control over, that anxiety and that stress is just going to continue to increase. So if we can, really focusing our time and energy on what we do have control over. And some of those things are our coping skills, making the time and the effort to engage in those on a regular basis. How we are, our attitude, responding to some of these events that are happening to us. We have some control over that. So if we can, focusing our time and our efforts on those important things that we do have control over, and even if they are seemingly small steps, maybe there's nothing really groundbreaking about it, but all of those little things compounding one on top of another, it's going to go such a long way in looking after ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I often say, I said, we all can look within. And we can say, I know how I feel if I don't get proper sleep, I don't eat properly, and I stress myself over things I can't control.
Yeah.
I know how I feel mentally. And so the only thing I can ask myself is, what can I do to change it? Because only I can do that. And you know what? I'm okay with baby steps. And you know what? Some days I'm going to fall flat on my face. But you know what? But I think what we have to realize too in today's world, we're all beings. So whether you're on the leadership side as a business owner, HR, trying to manage both sides, which is probably the most difficult, I'm sure, of roles, and then the employees, I think we all have to sit together in a room and say, you know what, we're all in this together. And I know we're doing, as leaders, and the community and the government, they're doing their best to give these tools and resources, but there has to be this team effort and appreciation for that. Not every day is going to be the best of days. So that we can, see and realize that, because I think that energy, that synergy that we'll have as a community, as a team, regardless of the role, and parents, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I think we need to realize that we're all in this together, like we're going to get through this, but we have to work together. I think Matt's got a question.
Yeah, Leon would just like to add, set daily micro goals, something to accomplish that day. Macro goal for a 90-day plan. Plan, check, and adjust, and be kind to yourself throughout the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you would, because I think that's what's happened. If you think of something that the end date's so far away, you can't imagine yourself getting there. But if you simple tasks of today, whether that was you got out of bed and brushed your teeth and put your clothes on, but you made it.
Yeah, great.
Right? Curled my hair even though I didn't have to see anybody. Well, today I had to see somebody. So, but yeah, and I think that's where we, maybe that's where I feel there's some challenges, is that some people that are in those roles of leadership are struggling as much or more, from what I'm hearing from clients, is that, these are just people that started businesses and they just work that business hard and they know what to do, but no one really gave them the handbook on deal with all this. And so stress for them heightened 5 times.
Of course.
Right? They're just trying to figure out how they're going to keep this business running, but now they know they've got this extra role and responsibility of managing other people through the COVID times and don't have the tools and resources.
You're right, Deb. And, I think that it comes back to that point you made before. We're all human. We're all going through this together. And even though sometimes we see the leaders like yourself or Leon as Wonder Woman and Superman, at the end of the day, you're human as well, right? And being vulnerable as leaders with the teams and the individuals that we're working with can go such a long way. And being able to ask for help when you need it, and set those appropriate boundaries and not take on too much, I think is so important right now. And when you're asking for help or just saying, hey, you know what, I'm stressed, I'm struggling right now, it's not done in a way to have a pity party for yourself, and it's not a sign of weakness or anything like that. It's just saying you're human. And that vulnerability, that open communication with the individuals that are closest to us goes a long way. And, like you touched on as well before, being a parent, so having that open and honest communication within your families. All of these things apply both in the workplace and then at home as well.
Absolutely. And for any of those, I mean, obviously, most people would know that we run a family business, that complexity, right?
Yeah.
How do I still maintain my sanity and still do what I need to be doing as a business as it merges into the family? And my daughter, she'll be the first to, I think her comment last night when I'm working on the computer, because I told you I was going to go home. She goes, I think you're going to blow your brains out, Mom.
Oh.
But she's saying it because she cares, because I'm like, I got work to do. I'm going, but she's honestly, she sees and she knows that I need to, like anybody else, like you need to, Kyle, like everybody here in our community needs to take a step back and be kind to themselves and allow themselves the chance to heal through one of those tough days.
Oh, of course. That self-compassion piece is huge right now. And I'm seeing that, I think this is probably generally too, but I'm seeing this kind of more these days. We're able to display that compassion a lot easier towards other people and that understanding, right? Leon had tech issues and we were just like, you know what? Not the end of the world. Everyone's experiencing it. It's fine, right? And if we hear someone is having a tough time right away, I'd be kind of thinking, hey, you know what can I be doing to help? I'm really sorry you're feeling that way. I understand where that's coming from. What can I be doing? But we don't have that same compassion towards ourselves. And if we can kind of give ourselves a bit of a break, we are in uncharted territory. We are, doing the best we can day by day. Hopefully that would help a little bit, because we all make mistakes. We're all human. I've probably made one or two mistakes before. Deb, you? One or two?
Lots.
Right? Everybody has. So if we can give ourselves a break. Yeah. So having that self-compassion towards ourselves, a couple tips for that. If we can treat ourselves like we would treat a family member or a friend. Just paying attention to language, right? Yeah. Paying attention to how we're talking to ourselves and that internal dialogue. Would you say to yourself, to a close friend, wow, you should be doing absolutely everything perfect, and I can't believe that you screwed this up when you've got 1,000 other things going on? No, of course not. So challenging some of those negative thoughts, talking back to that negative self-talk really helps right now.
And I agree 100%. You know what? I've always, kind of taught myself, and not that I'm best at practicing it a lot of days, but your brain can only hold one of two thoughts. It's either a thought or a bad thought. You can't carry two thoughts. So continually tell yourself that it's a bad day. I'm a loser. It's never going to work. Why am I trying? That's how your world will look. And we'll end on this note, and maybe if there's any questions, because one of the things that I have taught, because I, like many people, have gone through some, rough journey in life and growing up, and so everything that happens to you when you're like a young child impacts you today. So add again that to that, but I mean, the good part of the struggles that I've had, of the journey I've had, is that through what I can do best to help myself is, I train myself to, think positive, even when I go down slippery slopes, and then I start to, the self-talk says, I talk about affirmations, and they, like, if you could say something positive to yourself and repeat it 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. I know it sounds silly. I say that to my kids when I see them going through their moments, and I said, say something good to yourself and repeat it 10, 15, 20 times. Do that 3-4 times a day. Don't have to say it out loud. Just talk to yourself. you'd be actually impressed how it actually works. It's kind of like the I'm trying to think. There's where they go when you think about in your brain how only good thoughts, and you go, there's going to be an open parking spot when I get down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you're throwing it out.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to do here. So on that note, I think that if there's any other questions, I want to say thank you so much, Kyle, for coming to join us, and thank you, Leon, for joining in on some questions. We do know that there's going to be certainly some feedback from this following. If there's anything that we'd like to share back, you'll probably see it in our newsletters. I know Leon had put together, I think, he's got a leadership post, Kyle, that I think that we're going to post.
I think that was the plan, or hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks here, maybe having another one of these where Leon can maybe speak a little bit further to the leadership perspective on, taking care of ourselves while also balancing the needs of our team. So, supporting ourselves while supporting others, and maybe provide a bit more detail into that. But yeah, absolutely. I think overall, I touched on a number of great things, I think, today. Hopefully people can find at least one or two takeaways that they can really implement in their lives moving forward. I would challenge people to kind of create a commitment to action for themselves after this. So writing down even just what is one new way that you will prioritize taking care of yourself moving forward. And that can look as simple as going for a 20-minute walk each day. Maybe it is finding an affirmation and saying that to yourself. For myself, I start each day by writing down 5 gratitudes, so things I'm thankful for. And, some days it is, well, my coffee is warm today. That's good. There wasn't much traffic on the way to work. That was good. Like smaller things, but overall goes a great length to start your day that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
You know what? When you talk about gratitude or things that were good, I'll do a shout out to Cliff. I know he's doing a remote from the lake, lucky man. But the one thing that he did over the years, and we got talking about this a little while back, and he would, every time he would put the kids to bed, he would always ask them, what 3 great things happened today?
Awesome.
Even if they were repeating the same thing over and over, but to go to bed on a positive note.
Yep.
That was so important. So, again, it's not like to the audience, I never want to oversimplify something that's very complex and very important. Mm-hmm. But I think if we overcomplicate it, I think we're just going to get paralyzed and we won't be able to move forward because we feel it has to be this grandiose plan. And I don't think it needs to be. It can't be that right now. We need to do the best with what we've got. And I think we'd all be very impressed with ourselves that those little things still made the hugest difference.
It all contributes to that overall optimistic point of view. And it's not blind positivity. We're aware of the struggles of what's going on right now, but still being able to recognize all of the positives that exist because of it and despite of it. Still engaging in those little steps because those make all the difference. And still keeping that mentality in mind that, we will get through this because we will. And as we're working together, coming together, even just as simple as something like this makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that COVID, on a very positive note, I believe it's going to bring back the human in all of us.
Exactly.
So thank you again, Kyle, for joining us. I do want to, on a positive end to our note, I had mentioned at the beginning of our session that one of the things that we wanted to do as our parts in the community is that we've got many not-for-profits and charitable organizations that are clients of ours, probably about 40, I think, Matt, 40, 50.
About that, yeah.
And so we really, really worry for them because they're caring for the other people and they don't have the resources and the tools to do that. So one of the things that we decided as an organization is that I know there's a few, and I'll shout out 3. There's EGADS, and there's the Lighthouse, and there's Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So for the 2, for EGADS and the Lighthouse, I know that they're really, really in desperate need of all sorts of things that they can bring, because they don't have the funding to get these things, but toiletries, things to keep people's hygiene in a good place and keep them safe. They're looking for any kind of supplies and toiletries on that level, certainly food. Obviously, cash donation, they would always take, because they still have to go out and buy things that they can't take because of COVID restrictions. So I would say that if there's something that you wanted to do individually or as a company, I know what we're doing is we're having our team, because we're working remote, they're going to bring them to drop them off in our foyer, and then we're going to have someone drop them off at the organization's doorstep. The big brothers and big sisters, I say that because when we look at this isolation and this, they really relied on their big brothers and big sisters, and these poor little guys and girls, they want this connection back. So I feel that, one of the next things that we want to do is, yes, we can't do it right now, but through the phases, it will come, is we know these people want to get together and they want to go for, some French fries, go bowling, go to a movie, do whatever. So if we could post a gift, pre-gift the post, that makes any sense. It's gift certificates. It's things that we can give to the big brothers and sisters to say, here, take this to your little brothers and sisters and treat them. When all this is said, they love to be reconnected. And so I think that would be a good way to really give back to the community. So my shout out to you is, if there's something that you want to do, let us know. If you're doing it along any lines, because what we want to do is we want to share that message. And I think the strength of the community is what's going to be the good thing that will push us through all this. So with that, I do want to say a big thank you. Thank you again, Kyle, for joining us.
Cool. Thanks so much, Deb, for having us. We're thrilled to be a part of this and just helping out wherever we can. Of course, if anyone is having a tough time individually or, wants to kind of continue to support their community or organization, we encourage them to reach out, check out the Bridges Health website, or give us a call, email. We just want to try and do what we can and do our part to support Saskatchewan right now. And, if we can help point you in the right direction, we're more than happy to do so.
And I appreciate it. And giving volunteerism is part of healing.
Yeah.
So if we all do that, I think we'll all give ourselves a big treat.
Exactly.
So thank you again, and thank you, audience, for joining in. I thought this will be posted, and certainly we welcome any questions that might come out as a result of our chat. And I think with that, other than the fact that we really want to encourage people to continue to reach out to our Wiegers Financial and Benefits Facebook page to get this and past live chats. That's where they'll be posted, and as well our private best practices benefits FAQ to join in our peer group and to share in some of our challenges, our stories, good, bad, and different. We'd love to have you on board. So thank you again, and everybody stay well, stay healthy, and most important, remain optimistic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Deb. Take care, everyone.